Ewen Dewitt stood before the court, facing judgment for a brutal act. He was there for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Julie Minogue. The method was horrific, an axe. The crime was committed in the presence of her young children. Dewitt had pleaded guilty to murder and risk of injury to a child. This plea came just 2 months before his sentencing hearing. The court was set to deliver a sentence of 40 years in prison. Give a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. The sentencing hearing took a dramatic and disturbing turn, as the prosecutor described Dewitt's actions, calling them cold, calculated, and well thought out. Dewitt erupted. He unleashed a torrent of expletives and yelling. His outburst was directed at the prosecutor. He was heard shouting, "Rot in hell, you piece of..." The sudden explosion of rage necessitated immediate action from court personnel. 6 marshals moved quickly to restrain him. They repeatedly told him to sit down. Warnings were issued, including, "Watch your mouth." The judge intervened, warning Dewitt he would be removed if the outbursts continued. Dewitt's defiant response to the judge was, "That'd be great." The events leading to this courtroom scene unfolded on December 6, 2022. Julie Minogue's 17-year-old son was awakened that night. He was roused by his mother's screams. What he discovered was a scene of unimaginable horror. He found his mother lying in a pool of blood on the kitchen floor. Ewen Dewitt was standing nearby. In his hand, Dewitt held a long brown axe. The son, in fear for his life, made a desperate escape. He jumped from a second-story window. After his escape, the son immediately called 911. Another child, a 3-year-old, was also present in the home. Upon the arrival of the police, the younger child was found with Dewitt on the couch. The child was in a state of shock, described as having a blank stare, not crying, and not responding. The impact of this crime on Julie Minogue's family is profound and lasting. Her father, Gerald Minogue, spoke during the sentencing. He expressed a sense of relief that the court proceedings were finally concluding. However, he also conveyed the deep and enduring pain he carries. He spoke of the weight of the horror and fear his daughter must have experienced in her final moments. Gerald Minogue described Ewen Dewitt in stark terms, calling him an evil monster. The tragedy of Julie Minogue's death has led to further legal action. Her family has filed a lawsuit. The defendants in this civil case are the City of Milford and its police department. A lawsuit makes serious allegations. It claims the city and police mishandled Julie Minogue's repeated requests for help. Furthermore, it alleges a failure to adequately protect both Julie and her children. The lawsuit highlights Julie Minogue's desperate attempts to secure protection. She had repeatedly reached out to both the police and the courts. She explicitly stated her fear for the safety of herself and her children. Her fear stemmed from Dewitt's substance abuse and his threatening behavior. In an effort to gain legal protection, Julie sought a restraining order against Dewitt. A restraining order was indeed granted. Tragically, it was issued just 5 days before her death. Despite obtaining the order, Julie continued to contact the police multiple times about Dewitt's actions. She provided examples of his harassment and threats. This included an instance where Dewitt inundated her with 200 text messages in just 2 days. The lawsuit points to specific alleged failures by law enforcement. Following the murder, an investigation was initiated into the actions of a particular officer. The allegation against this officer is significant. It claims the officer failed to gather sufficient information to secure an arrest warrant against Dewitt before the murder occurred. This alleged inaction is central to the family's claim that the system failed to protect Julie Minogue when she needed it most. The case of Julie Minogue raises critical questions about domestic violence, the effectiveness of protective orders, and the response of law enforcement. A woman sought help, expressed fear, obtained a legal order, and still became a victim of extreme violence. The courtroom outburst, while shocking, underscores the volatile nature of the perpetrator. It also highlights the raw emotion and trauma surrounding such cases, impacting not only the victim's family, but also those involved in the legal process. The family's lawsuit moves beyond the individual perpetrator to question systemic issues. It asks whether the established protocols for handling domestic disturbance calls and requests for protection were followed adequately. It probes whether the information provided by Julie Minogue was taken seriously enough. the allegation regarding the failure to pursue an arrest warrant before the murder is particularly damning. It suggests a potential breakdown in the process designed to prevent such tragedies. This case serves as a stark reminder of the dangers faced by individuals attempting to leave abusive relationships. Restraining orders are intended to provide a legal barrier, but they are only effective if they are enforced and if the underlying threats are addressed proactively by authorities. The volume of communication, such as the 200 texts, can be a clear indicator of escalating harassment and potential danger. Recognizing these signs and acting upon them is crucial for law enforcement. The presence of children during the murder adds another layer of horror and trauma. The lawsuit's inclusion of the failure to protect the children acknowledges the ripple effect of domestic violence. Witnessing such an event can inflict lifelong psychological damage. The image of the 3-year-old child found in a state of shock is a powerful and tragic testament to this. For legal enthusiasts, this case presents a complex intersection of criminal law and civil liability. The criminal sentencing addresses the perpetrator's actions, but the civil lawsuit seeks accountability from institutions. It explores the legal duty of care owed by municipalities and their police departments to citizens, particularly those seeking protection from known threats. The outcome of the lawsuit will have implications for how similar cases are handled in the future and could influence policy changes within law enforcement agencies. For social justice advocates and victim advocates, the case of Julie Minogue is a call to action. It highlights the persistent challenges faced by victims of domestic violence in navigating the legal and law enforcement systems. It underscores the need for better training for police officers on handling domestic calls, recognizing risk factors, and utilizing available legal tools like arrest warrants when threats are evident. It also emphasizes the importance of believing victims when they report fear and threatening behavior. The case resonates deeply within the Milford community, where the crime occurred. It forces a difficult examination of local safety protocols and the effectiveness of community resources available to victims of domestic violence. The public nature of the sentencing outburst and the subsequent lawsuit bring these issues into the open, prompting necessary, albeit painful, conversations. The analytical perspective requires looking at the sequence of events: the history of the relationship, the specific threats made by Dewitt, Julie's attempts to get help, the response, or alleged lack thereof, from authorities, the granting of the restraining order, the continued harassment, and the final, fatal act. Each step in this timeline is critical in understanding how this tragedy unfolded and where potential interventions could have occurred. The lawsuit argues that the system failed at multiple points along this timeline. The critical tone is necessary when examining allegations of systemic failure. If the claims in the lawsuit are substantiated, it suggests a serious breakdown in the protective mechanisms designed to safeguard vulnerable individuals. It implies that bureaucratic processes or individual errors may have contributed to a preventable death. Holding institutions accountable in such cases is vital for ensuring public trust and driving necessary reforms. The somber tone reflects the gravity of the loss of life and the trauma inflicted. Julie Minogue was a mother, a daughter, a person who deserved to live free from fear. Her death is a tragedy that extends far beyond the courtroom and the legal filings. It is a human tragedy with devastating consequences for her family and community. The sentencing of Ewen Dewitt closes one chapter in this tragic story, holding the perpetrator accountable for his actions. However, the courtroom outburst served as a raw, visceral reminder of the violence at the heart of the case. The ongoing lawsuit against the city of Milford and its police department opens another, equally critical chapter. It seeks to understand and address the alleged systemic failures that may have contributed to Julie Minogue's death. This case serves as a powerful and disturbing case study. It illustrates the complex interplay between individual violence, victim advocacy, legal protections, and institutional response. For the family of Julie Minogue, the pain is immeasurable, carrying the weight of her final moments. For the community and the broader public, the case demands a serious examination of how society protects those most vulnerable, and how justice is pursued not only against perpetrators, but also against systems that may have failed.